Today I want to talk about yarn design for hand-spun yarns and ways you can play with color, especially particularly in a cabled yarn, which is a yarn that where you spin singles, as many singles as you want, uh, ply, let's say two of them together. I'm just going to talk about two plies because it's easier. Spin singles, ply it going rightward, then ply them together going leftward, in other words, S, and then ply the plied yarns together going right or Z. And I got the inspiration for this new yarn from two different sources. One was the twisted fringe that I put um, on the scarf made from my multicolor hand spun um, in the hashtag pattern that I wove. And because some of the yarn was multicolor and just spun as is and plied as is, once I twisted the fringe, the colors got broken up even more into this really fascinating look. Then, not that long ago, I treated myself to some very serviceable, quite soft, and beautifully heathered fiber from Knit Picks. And when we zoom in here on this big gobbet, you can get a sense of the four colors. So I picked a heathered gray, and this is just their Wool of the Andes top. Heathered gray, I think this is called garnet heather, a gold heather, and a green heather. And let me show you, I didn't save any of the unspun fiber, unfortunately, because I never remember to do that. But you can get a sense from my samples what's going on. So this is what the gray looks like when spun and plied on itself. And you can see that there's darker gray in there, just a tiny little bit. And it's just, oh, I love heathered yarns so much because they are so interesting. And this is what the garnet looks like spun up. Again, there's some darker colors in there, and when you look really closely, you can see that the heathering effect just gives it some depth and richness. This is what the green looks like. And again, these heathered colors are just delicious. And then this is what I think, I can't remember the exact color name, but I think it was called something like gold or toffee or something. And it's a brown with icy little flecks of red and green in there. And this was just a whim. I was shopping on Knit Picks for yarn for other projects, for yarn to knit. And I thought, well, hey, I've never tried spinning their Wool of the Andes top. And I did it. And it's really easy to spin. It's really beautiful to spin. And because it is so affordable, a pound's worth of yarn in four different colors, 4 ounces each, felt like a really fun thing to experiment with. So this was my first experiment, and I liked it enough to try to. I didn't like some aspects of it, so I ditched those, but I liked other aspects of it so much that I wanted to try a cabled yarn. So this particular little mini skein that is super springy is done with the technique called combination drafting. So I ripped out little strips of each of the four colors and put them in a box and just grabbed stuff uh, randomly as I was spinning. And I tried holding all four colors together and drafting from them simultaneously. And what I didn't like about this yarn was how uneven it was. I mean, look at that, this great big gobbet. This has got barely any twist at all to it. And the red, green, and brown drafted nicely together, but the gray just totally did not. So it's really uneven and it's super twisted. It is so over twisted that I've got little pigtails in that. And I thought I was a better spinner than that. What I'm learning is um, I just don't have as much control when I'm combination drafting. And so this is kind of the order of the day. So uh, also, I tend to over twist anyway, but this is just too much. But like I said, I like the effect enough, and I thought, wait a minute. cabled yarn is the perfect solution. So let's try that. So accordingly, I spun up a bobbin each of the 4 different colors. The red and the gold, and then I spun, uh, and then they're plied together. Let me back out of this a little bit more so you can see more clearly what's going on. So after I spun the green and the gray, I plied them together. And because there's enough difference in both their value, their relative lightness and darkness, and their hue family, they stand out really distinctively from each other. Let's go in super closely. And in fact, one of the fun things I noticed as I was plying these 2 colors together is because the spinning, the wheel, the flyer was spinning so fast, it looked like a lighter green blur. It was really a lot of fun. So again, this, I'm going to say medium dark green and this much lighter gray have enough hue contrast and value contrast that the barber pole effect here really stands out. However, on the gold and red, they are both very similar enough in value and similar enough in hue that they blend together much more. So both of these yarns are ready now for the cabling process. So let's see what that looks like. So again, spin the singles Z or to the right, which is how things are normally done for a typical 2-ply yarn. Then ply the yarns going to the left or S, and now I'm on the 3rd pass. So I've got my electric eel wheel set to spin Z or to the right, and I honestly can't tell you what's going to happen. But because I don't know. I haven't seen this yet. But let's see how it goes. And one of the things about doing a cabled yarn is you do have to have more twist both in the singles and in the plied yarn, the first round of plying, because you're taking out twist as you ply it for the second time. And I'm just fiddling right now with the take up and speed and turning it on as opposed to turning it off. Okay, and I want a little more twist than I'm getting, but not a whole lot more, because now you can really see the colors playing against each other. And this was kind of the effect I was going for. Let's see what happens when I add more twist. So let's take a closer look at this. And you can see here, or you could if it were in frame. Really need to get myself a producer. Okay, you can see here that this is, you're seeing both colors, but you're not, or you're seeing all 4 colors, but you're not necessarily seeing all 4 of them at the same time. Let's see what happens if I slow it down and put less twist in. And I've got a little kink in here. So just like with any plying project, you absolutely positively have to keep the 2 plies separated as they come off the bobbins, or you end up with little tangles and other infelicities. Okay. So I'm honestly not noticing that much of a big difference between the two. And perhaps I would be getting a different effect if instead of plying the green and gray and the brown and red together, I had split up the red and the brown onto different two plies. Uh, but regardless, this is still the effect I was hoping for when I tried combination drafting of getting all four colors to show up at the same time. It's not perfect, but it's not necessarily perfectly what I wanted, but it's pretty doggone close. And this is going to be so much fun to continue plying. I'm going to speed it up a little bit more and just ply a little bit more, and then we'll take another look. So ply, 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 ply. I had only ever done a cabled yarn before with the same source fiber for all four plies, and that also turned out beautifully. It was a Malabrigo top with lots of colors going on, but I'd never tried it with four completely different colors, and this is a pretty amazing effect. And I'm going to weave up a Zoom Loom square with it when I get done, and that will give us also knit up some swatches, and I'll show them to you when they're ready to rock and roll. But this is really fun, and these are some of the sorts of experiments you can make to play with color and color combinations and see what happens. Like I said, if I had separated the gold and the brown and the red into different plies instead of plying them together, I might have gotten a completely different effect. And these are the sorts of experiments that we as spinners should never shy away from.